It's June 20th at exactly 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Exactly.
As always. As a promise, every week, this is Bill and Ken, and we're talking Geeky Gamer Podcast, all that is geeky. Just an assortment of I don't know, stuff. And really everything is off the table. But what we will not talk about this week is Star Wars, because we've ground that down to a complete crazy. We've talked about it too many times. There are plenty of other space adventures out there, and we've covered that topic as nauseum. So I would like to it's been now. Let's not discuss Star Wars again until they do something worth talking about, because as far as I'm concerned, they haven't. Anyway, this is the Geeky Gamer Podcast. We are here with Michele Defilippo. I hope I didn't just
Defilippo, man.
Defilippo. The force behind 1106 design. I can't believe I messed that up. I feel like I should start again.
Of course you did, but you got the Star Wars thing going.
Michele Defilippo is a one-stop shop for manuscript editing, book design, indie publishing, advice from editing, design, formatting to author websites. Michele, I think their goal is to help authors navigate the very difficult process of publishing. We've discussed this sort of stuff in the past. Her book is Published Like Prose, a brief guide to quality self-publishing, an insider look at misunderstood industry. And we're going to talk about how it relates to geeky gamers. Super thanks to all lowercase letters and Mr. Emter for the music, as well as our Patreon members. Become a Patreon member today. Tim Roberts, Daniel Hulker, Nostalgic, and Natalia Cline are our Patreons. Be number 5. Be alive. Art media this week by Couchfire Media Productions, and super duper awesome as every week, Trois Replay Productions for whatever it is they do. We're not really sure tonight.
No one knows.
Michele,
no one actually knows what they do.
Defilippo. Did you have anything to say, Bill?
Of course, I have a multitude, a bevy.
Did I trigger you a little bit
of things to say? No, you didn't. The short circuit reference was pretty good.
Okay.
I have new headphones from the last time that I threw mine against the wall and broke them. So, Michele, who are you?
I'm Michele Defilippo, like you just said, and I own 1106 Design, and I've owned it since 2001, and I've been in the publishing industry for 50 years, since 1972.
Dang! 50 years? What?
So you probably know what's going on.
52. I've seen it all, yes.
How have you been in the... Did you start when you were like 5 years old?
No, I started when I was 19. I'm now 72.
Well, you do not look 72.
Well, thank you. Now I know I'm welcome.
Wow. Okay, you've been in... Lord, I have no idea what the publishing industry was in the 70s. So, hey, what was it?
Well, everybody's familiar with traditional publishing, right? And back in the day, it was the only way for an author to get their books in front of the public. You had to go to a publisher. And the way it worked was the publisher would buy the rights to your manuscript, the publisher would hire all the experts to produce the book, and the author would pay nothing. And
that sounds good.
And when a book was sold, then the publisher would get most of the money from book sales, and the author would get what they called a royalty. That worked for hundreds of years, right? Then around 2000 or so, independent publishing came along, and all of a sudden, with Amazon, it became possible for anyone to get their book in front of the public without a publisher. And that was the best thing that could happen to authors in a very long time. The authors would hire the experts like us to produce the book. They would upload the book to their own print-on-demand accounts. And when a book was sold, they would get all of the money from
They get all the money?
All of the money, all of the net revenue from book sales. Yes. No sharing of revenue with a publisher.
Because that doesn't. Oh, I see. No sharing with a publisher. But what about Amazon?
Oh, Amazon always gets some money. You can't.
All right,
you
so they don't
can't
get
help it.
all the. I was gonna say.
No. All of the net revenue. Retailers take 40 to 55% of the cover price.
Okay, so I don't want to cut you off here. Continue.
That's okay. No, so when independent publishing first started, it was great. It was a wonderful opportunity for authors. But now everything's gotten all mixed up, as so many other things have. And what's happening now is we have intermediate companies that call themselves self-publishing companies, hybrid publishers. Sometimes they don't even use an adjective. They just call themselves publishers. But what they're doing is they're charging authors to produce the book, and they're taking some of their revenue from sales on the back end when a book is sold. And that's not very advantageous to authors. And so I'm here to just try to dispel some of that misunderstanding and let authors know about the original model of self-publishing, which is more financially in their favor.
Okay, so a little of my background. I wrote a book and published it and self-published it. So I know a little bit about what this is, but I'm really interested in knowing all this knowledge.
This is
I want to talk a little bit about history and stuff.
Bill's book.
Go on.
If you look at the book, I don't know if you can see it, but I don't know if it fits what you're looking for. If it has the design, because I know like you're into critiquing books, and one of the things I wanted to do.
Oh, you critique books?
Well, I mean, I don't know about critiquing, but you know, you've got a style and a manufacturing.
Ken, I was not trying to plug the book. I was trying to tell her what I know about publishing. So my point is, my journey through self-publishing, I did not, fortunately, I guess, I didn't run into a company that was attempting to charge me to publish. So that's something completely new. I'm not surprised about it, but I've never heard of it. So tell us about the wilds of self-publishing.
Well, tell me how you went about it, because you may have done it correctly without realizing it.
Yeah, that's likely. I used to do it incorrectly without realizing it. Right. So I wrote this book. I lost a bunch of friendships and all these things because, you know, you get into it and you pay no attention to anyone else. You finish the book and then design it and all those things. And once it was all complete, I decided, okay, well, it seems that I need an ISBN to, which I forget what that stands for.
International Standard Book Number.
And you got to have one of those for each cover or edition of your book if it's going to be a physical book. Right. Mm-hmm. So I went to, what's it called? It's just a strange name. Bowker. Went to Bowker, bought a bunch of ISBNs, did their whole like 10 ISBN thing. And I noticed that with Amazon or KDP, and the various other, you know, Ingram Sparks, Lulu, et cetera, they would say, hey, look, you can get a free ISBN through us, but then we are considered the publisher, and therefore we own this edition of the book, which means while you're going to get with whatever our model is of percentage of the value or percentage of the profits, you kind of you can't do what you want with it. So I couldn't take the same book and sell it somewhere else, or they might have various bits and pieces, basically a contract. And I was like, I'm trying to edit my language. In the parlance of our times, F that. So with if I own the ISBN,
yeah, well, we can't say in the first 20 minutes, or they'll
first 20
shadow
minutes.
ban us.
No, I'm actually.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, I was actually saying it because I didn't want to offend her, but Ken.
Yeah, well,
can't be offended.
So my point, I got the ISBNs and did that route. Yeah. And so I put it on Ingram Sparks. I did KDP for the EPUB of it, but that was a mess. And then I did Lulu because I really liked the quality of their print. and I did TTRPG, which is a tabletop role-playing game. The book is a tabletop role-playing game. Think of Dungeons and Dragons. It's like that, but better. And then maybe one of the other ones. I don't like Amazon at all. Every time I sell something on Amazon, I get about 80 cents because they'll mark my book down from whatever they price it at, which I can't decide, to the actual cost of the print. So I get nothing from them. I can sell the book for, so it's a 500-page book, hardback, and it's a executive size, so 10 by 7 or 7 by 10. And I can sell it for $60 or $65 on Lulu or in TTRPG, and it's an excellent quality. Amazon, they're like, the lowest I can sell it for is $79. Now, mind you, if I sell it for $60 on Lulu, the actual cost of printing the book is about $36, $37. So I make a profit. Amazon, they sell it. The lowest is like 78 and change. I was like, no one's going to buy a book. I mean, and you know what I'm saying? So that's been my sort of deal, trying to get people to do reviews. And now it's like, okay, now what? How to promote this thing? So that is my entire journey, and I have plugged. Thanks for coming on. I plugged my own book.
Well, I'm a little confused by what you're saying, because at KDP, you can set your retail price, correct? And then there's the printing
to a
cost.
certain point. There's a minimum.
Okay, I've never run into that. But KDP,
yeah, and the other thing is, go on.
No, you're in charge. In fact, you should upload your book to KDP and Ingram Spark. That's what we recommend. Anybody else is a self-publishing company that's probably sharing some of your revenue. So I'm a little confused about what you're experiencing here. Because normally you can set your own retail price. Amazon deducts 40%. Amazon deducts the printing cost. And then, but now KDP until recently did not offer hardcovers. So we can,
right.
It's going to make a terrible show if we go down all these rabbit holes. But I should talk to you and find out what you're doing offline, and maybe I can give you some advice.
Yeah. So what I ran into was with Amazon specifically. So you use KDP to get onto Amazon, right?
Yes.
And KDP is direct publishing. Is that correct?
Are you feeding Amazon directly through your own Amazon author account, or are you using KDP to print your book print on demand?
Okay, so I'm using KDP. This is what I'm doing. I'm using KDP for the EPUB. All right.
Okay.
And I'm using Ingram Sparks for Amazon. So Ingram
for the hardcover
will post to Amazon. Right.
Okay. So Ingram's printing your hardcover and feeding Amazon.
Right.
Okay. So Ingram feeds Amazon, but at a 55% wholesale discount. So that's probably what's happening.
I see. So
you've got
actually putting to KDP direct would be a better option.
Except you probably can't get a hardcover in a 7 by 10 size out of KDP. I'd have to check on that for you.
Right.
We usually let Ingram Spark print hardcovers and feed them to Amazon.
It's all interesting. That's all interesting. It's
very confusing.
It's extremely confusing. Getting the files correctly. I was using Adobe InDesign, and and my book, it's not a traditional book. I mean, it's full color, full bleed. There's, graphs and pictures, and the layout is crazy and all that stuff. And initially I thought to do a paperback, but the cost was about the same. Like that size and whatnot, everywhere I looked, it seemed the same. So I was like, well, I'll do hardback, and I ran into all these things. Then you upload it, and if your internet connection sucks and it takes more than 15 minutes, it doesn't upload, and it's just getting in touch with Amazon is.
Well,
yeah.
That's what we do. We it sounds like you laid out your own book in InDesign, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe your files were just too big or something.
They were massive. They were massive.
Yeah.
So what do you guys lay out
probably...
with 1106 design?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the beginning.
What do you lay out in 1106 design? What tools?
Yeah,
do you
we use Adobe InDesign,
Okay.
but I'm guessing that maybe your photos were too big or something. They could have been downsized and made the eventual size of the PDF that you uploaded smaller. That's one thing that it could have been. But what we do is we take the fact that you're suffering there. I hear that story all the time. And what we do is we make it easy for authors because we take care of all of that. All they have to do is send us their manuscript and we talk about what they want and how they want it. We show samples of the interior and the cover and so forth. And we take care of all of that. And we take care of the uploading and recommend a sales price and all of that.
Yeah. So you do the layout, and all a person would have to send you is like a PDF or like a Word doc or whatever.
Just a Word doc. And we do manuscript editing and cover design, interior design, proofreading, ebook formatting, everything, lots of stuff.
And now, what about a book that, for example, mine is it's not a novel, right? What about?
It's got lots of tables.
Yeah, someone wanted to do something like that.
You got tables.
Yeah, we've done 4,000 books since 2001. So yeah, we could do just about everything. Yeah. Yeah, we've done medical textbooks. We've done books filled with charts and graphs and every kind of book you can imagine.
And I'm assuming you can give a pretty good amount of advice to authors as well.
Oh, yeah. In the course of most projects take 3 to 4 months. We answer 200 or 300 messages in that time. And it's just a one big long conversation, basically, until we create the book that you want.
And do you do the editing? So you do the formatting, but do you actually do proofing or editing or?
Yeah, we start with copy editing. Yeah.
Copy editing.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, we'll start with an editorial evaluation to see what level of editing might be needed. And then we'll go on to editing, cover design, interior, page design, and then the layout after an interior design is approved. Then after the pages are typeset, then we proofread, because that's the final review that, what the customer is going to see. So we want to make sure there's no little errors that creeped in along the way. And then we get the files uploaded to Ingram Spark and KDP. And the difference between us and a publisher, though, is that we don't take any revenue from sales. The print-on-demand accounts are set up in the author's name so that when a book is sold, they get the sales reports, they get the money deposited to their bank account, not to our bank account. So that's my message, is that if you work with a publisher like Lulu, for instance, they're getting the sales reports, they get the money deposited to their bank account, and then they pay you some lesser amount. Most of them take some money out of your pocket at that stage.
Of course.
Yeah. So you can authors can and should use the calculators at KDP and Ingram Spark to find out what they should make, so that when they do interview other companies, they'll have a basis for comparison on the revenue they'll receive.
Well, the rationalization that I had was, so I did a Kickstarter for this thing, and that was mainly to be able to purchase the books and then send them off to the people that had bought them, and then a little bit of cash for some what's the word, some design. We'll say I had hired a person to design the book, but you know how that goes. So I got some advice.
It should go smoothly. What happened?
Should go smoothly.
You did it yourself, didn't you?
So I did it myself. And my rationalization for this was, well, so let's say I put it to Lulu, let's say I put it to KDP, to Ingram Sparks, I put it everywhere, and I own it. So let's say I'm getting 65% here, 40% there, 30% there. It's at a wider audience, and I'm getting less, but I mean, if someone uses Drive-Thru-RPG, they're going to use Drive-Thru-RPG. 80% of people don't know what that is. They're going to use Amazon, right?
Mhm.
So it's this kind of back and forth of cast a wide net. What do you think about that?
Well, Ingram Spark, KDP feeds all of the Amazon channels worldwide. They claim to offer expanded distribution, but they really don't, because no bookstore, no library will order from Amazon. They order from Ingram.
Right.
So if you use KDP and Ingram together, now you've got worldwide distribution at the lowest possible cost. To the best of my knowledge, Lulu uploads their files to Ingram. So what's probably happening is that you've got the same book with 2 ISBN numbers being distributed to the same channels.
Interesting.
You should look into that.
So it only has one ISBN though.
Well, I don't know what they did in your situation then, because usually a different publisher requires a different ISBN. So if you're the publisher at Ingram, Lulu can also be the publisher at Ingram.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I'm using the same thing for all of those. I'd run into a problem. I'd run into an issue with, I think this is part of it, is you can read through all of the documentation, the black and white. You can try and get in touch with these people. Some of them have better customer service than others. Lulu has extremely good customer service that I found. Not to tout their line or anything. And there's still so many questions, and they each require minute differences. But that minute difference, or that template that they requires you to go all the way back, re-export the file, re-upload it, do the whole thing. It is an amazing amount of work. It is extremely frustrating.
There's a lot more to creating the files than people think. Some people think that, they can send in a manuscript and we just click a few buttons and it somehow magically becomes a book. But there's a lot going on there that you have to know about.
Perhaps you can answer this question. It has been my burning question for a long time. What are we past 20 minutes, Ken?
I don't know.
What in the world is a transparency? That's
a really good question. That's a really good question. I know it interferes with making PDFs quite a bit.
Yeah, you can't have transparencies in PDFs. I don't think that's a thing.
What is this?
It does make.
See, I actually haven't personally designed a book in about 10 years. I have people now on my team who do that. So I'm the wrong person to ask about it.
Hits them on the lips. It is, there are so many versions and codecs, and I'm a programmer, all right? I'm used to that, but I'm sitting there like, what is going on? I'm like reading about it. It's a bother. Sure. It is a bother.
I can tell you, if you make your PDF according to the PDFX 2001 standard, you'll be fine.
Yeah, but you think 2001, that's old. I'm going to use, 2004.
It sounds old, but it's been the standard forever.
Don't use the 2004.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah.
It works.
But there's a reason why it still exists as a codec or a format. Yeah. And that's because it's built in. Yeah, everybody can use
there's something about I'm very interested in the history of this stuff. There's something about the printers when you're designing it in InDesign on a computer using RGB. And back in the day, you'd have to design it in CMYK, but now you don't. Now you can just design it in RGB and the printers automatically convert it in CMYK. I mean,
well, if you have the PDFX settings correctly, turning it into a PDF will convert RGB to CMYK.
I see.
But that's another whole subject.
Yeah, but the colors could shift. Confusing. I mean, from being.
Well, RGB will always shift when you convert it to CMYK, because CMYK only can reproduce a much smaller number of colors than RGB.
Unless you.
But it's usually.
When you build the document, you pay attention to CMYK colors.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you have to worry about not making your blacks too intense, because for print on demand they can't be printed if you have more than, I think it's 260 or 160 ink levels. Yeah, there's a lot to it.
It's a lot to it. There's a lot to it.
Yeah, I designed a cover for a sci-fi book not too terribly long ago, and the blacks, I think the first book that we had, it was a much brighter black than I thought, and it's like, and I went back and everything was as black as I could make it, and it was still kind of not as black. I might have to go to get it, the book cover that I did, and like measure it against this one, because this one seems like it's pretty black, but
I keep it real, Ken. So Michele, tell us a little bit about how you got into publishing and making your company.
Well, I wish I could tell you it was a plan, but when I got out of school in 1972, I just went on a bunch of job interviews, and Crown Publishers in New York was the first, where I was born, was the first company that said, sure, we'll hire you. So that's how I got into publishing. Then I did a whole bunch of other things over the years. I had a typesetting business from 1980 to 1993.
What is that? What is that? Remember that I'm like 3 years old, so.
Well, no, that's okay. Nobody knows what typesetting is anymore. In the old days, you could not sit at a computer and make a page and put pictures and words together on a page as one operation. You had to purchase the words from a typesetting company, purchase the pictures from a camera company, and then put the two together with cut and paste, literal cut and paste with razor blades and glue. That's how the field was for most
physically origami style.
When
physically cut and paste.
When I started art school, you had to physically cut and paste, because our art school didn't have any, and that was the 90s.
I ate paste, but
they didn't.
So now by night I had a typesetting business for 13 years, and then Steve Jobs invented the Macintosh, and all of the typesetting businesses in the world went out of business, including mine.
Yeah. Did you switch over to the early Mac? Those little tiny Macs?
The piece of shit Mac. Those things.
The little tiny.
What was the first?
It was like the Apple one. Anyway,
yeah, that was the Apple.
I found the book, and like it took me a couple of. I don't even know if you can tell which one is the black and which one is the not black, but
one is more muted than the other one. For sure.
We definitely
the one on the side looks better.
We definitely, it took us a few tries to get the print to be a little more, put out. So, yeah, I thought that was interesting. And then taking the black version, I'm sorry, because this is just, I haven't done this before. You can't really tell. I do have a bunch of smudgy prints on it, because I think my book is
that's the material. The material
I was going to say, it's cloth, right?
Yeah. It's not a cloth, or maybe it is.
I call it digital cloth.
It feels
digital
nice.
cloth.
That's
called digital cloth.
It's not actually a cloth. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I really liked about it, because all of the other places I went, it's a much more standard sort of waxy hardback, like a typical. Whereas that one, the whole idea of that book was it was supposed to be a manuscript, like as in it was supposed to have an old timey, like you traveled with it feel, and so it has that, I guess, digital cloth is kind of cool, and that's not an option. They just do that. Anyway, okay, so you had a business. Steve Jobs brought out the Apple I, that son bitch, and destroyed it. So then what'd you do?
It took a number of years to destroy the typesetting businesses, but by 1980 or so, we were doomed, and we knew it. So I went back to freelancing for a while, and then about that time is when self-publishing came out, and I said, okay, I know all about that. So I opened 1106 Design and started out with just me, and then it just kind of grew and grew and grew, and now I've got 20 people.
Wow.
Yeah, nice.
So I know I'm going back. Typesetting, you have, okay, this is what I think. I know, like back in the day, like in the before times, right? You would have you'd have like a board, and they would have these blocks that had letters, right? And they would arrange the blocks, and that's how they would print like a newspaper, right? So it was manually done.
That was Gutenberg.
Yeah, many moons ago. So there's that. When I think of typesetting, I think of, okay, I have the type and I set it. And that's where all these weird terms come from, which I right now cannot remember any of them. But all the weird terms you see in Illustrator or InDesign or whatever comes from that, right?
Correct.
Okay. And it's arcane and archaic, but kind of cool at the same time. So when you're talking about typesetting, is it that? Or is it something else? Is it pasting it all together?
Is it back that in the big day, box you had with all the letters in it and stuff, I guess?
Well, back in the day, it was. You would buy the type from a typesetter, and back when I started in the industry, they used to make up blocks of type with melted lead molds. So it's kind of hard to imagine that today. But when I got into the typesetting business, it was computerized. It was just starting to be computerized. So we sat at machines. I rented a $35,000 typesetting machine that was the size of a refrigerator. And we typed on a keyboard and made the strips of type that would then be cut and pasted into whatever you were making, an ad or a book or a brochure.
So it was printmaking, like quite literally.
Yeah.
Like you had to line everything up and whatnot.
Yeah.
Dang.
And it was really, really time consuming and labor intensive. I don't know how we got anything done.
Yeah. So then we had computers and the glory of the internet, and you decided now is the time.
Well, yeah, the computers actually put us out of business. So I went out and bought a Mac and I freelanced for a while. And like everybody else, then started making pages on a computer, right? Which is what we're still doing today.
And
so Amazon comes along.
You can still pay for fonts if you want.
You can.
Oh, yeah. But now a font, you can buy a font for $25. Yeah. Back in the day when I had my typesetting business, one typeface was $125.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to buy Times Roman, regular italic, bold, and bold italic, it was $125 times 4.
Yeah. But did you have to, did you get a physical type? Or this was...
Back then they put the type on a negative, a photo negative wheel. And the wheel was put into the machine, and the keyboard would spin the wheel to however it needed to be to make the words on paper. It was what they called a photo typesetting machine in those days.
It's like a super typewriter.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Amazon comes along.
Did you do one page at a time, or did you do multiple pages at a time?
The typesetting, we did long strips of paper, and a graphic designer would have to cut those strips into book pages and glue them together. Yeah, crazy. Yeah.
What happened if they cut the wrong place?
You had to redo it. Yeah, I spent many an hours splicing in one line of type where it belonged. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to go
crazy,
but I guess go on.
No, that was it. We can move on. I just wanted to go a little deeper. I just wanted to go a little deeper on that moment,
But I guess if you were looking back, this is hindsight, and so there's the thought of how in the world could we do that? But at the time, that was just the process.
Yeah, it was part of it.
Yes, you didn't question it. It was the way it was done.
You just had to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so Amazon, Amazon fucking comes along. And what happens?
And what happens, it was the greatest opportunity for authors ever, because they didn't have to work with a publisher. They could publish their own book and put it in front of the whole world without an intermediary taking any of their money.
But Michelle, Amazon sucks.
Amazon is a big company, so big companies get to do whatever they want. And they don't care if you're happy with it.
It's true.
But
that's the truth. That's the truth.
But they suck. But no, check this out. Check this out.
But look at what
sucks.
they've made possible.
It's true. It's
Yeah.
true.
I mean, somebody could say about
the
same about Star Wars.
You sack of shit. Don't you talk about Star Wars. I'll take this shirt off again. Anyway. Okay, so Amazon changes the game. It makes self-publishing much more accessible. Then Jeff Bezos becomes a Nazi. Whatever. The point is, it's better for authors.
Yes.
Frustrating though. Also, here's the thing. So if I go into, it's a tyranny of choice. So how does the public, that's right, the public, how do they know what to read, right? Because there's a bazillion authors and they're all looking for reviews, but they're all fake reviews. It's all bullshit reviews. 5-star reviews, my ass. So there's it's this sea of, okay, well, you're going to pay to have, how do you promote? Yes, you can publish your book, but it's just thrown into the well of obscurity.
Well, to a degree, you're correct, right? Because the whole field of self-publishing has become corrupted, right? We've got fake reviews, we've got fake bestsellers, right? There's companies out there that promise to make your book a bestseller. Well, they're just gaming Amazon's algorithm so that you're a bestseller for 45 minutes in some obscure category. And then they take a screenshot of it. And from that moment on, you can put a screenshot next to your name that says, I'm a best-selling author. It's baloney.
How do you do that?
Right?
It's the same as like film festivals.
How do you do that?
So you got to pay to play, basically.
And that's what bothers me the most, right? Because I've been in publishing a long time, and when I started, and still to a certain degree with major publishers, making a book is a fine art. It's a bunch of talented people getting together and making a piece of literature, right? But self-publishing has become a used car dealership of the publishing industry, and it shouldn't have been. It should have been the greatest opportunity for authors ever, but it just got all messed up. And so I just want people to know that if they publish the way you did by opening up their own KDP and Ingram Spark accounts, and they hire somebody like us to help them produce the files so that they don't have to have a nervous breakdown doing it, then
I mean, I only had one or two.
I get calls all the time. Authors are suffering something terrible, Can you fix my files? I hired somebody on Fiverr who doesn't know how to finish the job. I mean, it's just a huge mess. But
so paying somebody $5 to edit your book they didn't do a good job.
Or how about $750? Don't use your friends. Don't necessarily believe in referrals. Look at people's body of work.
Oh yeah.
And get to know them. Do they actually do what they say, or do they just blame everyone else for not doing what they say? For example,
how do you deal with accountability? How do you account for your product and guarantee with your company?
You mean as far as we have tons of good reviews.
Yeah.
And how do I stay accountable? The nuns who taught me are dead, but they're still watching.
It's a good question. How do you trust that is there a contract that you guys use? Because on Fiverr, there's not really a contract. I mean, it's an
absolutely. And actually, you kind of named my problem, right? Because there are so many bad self-publishing companies out there, and so many authors have had bad experiences that for us, it's really hard to not only get the word out, but for anybody to believe you, right? And the way we approach a book is at the traditional publishing level. So it's expensive. I will be the first one to tell you that, because we put a lot of hours and effort into it. And so people just don't believe that that's the way it should be.
Well, it's expensive because you've got a
who-
professional working on
Yeah.
your
yeah.
content.
Yeah, 6 professionals mostly for
Right.
every book.
Right.
So,
you have
so yeah,
six
so it's
people read through one book. That's kind of the
well, not all 6 people read it. The editor
Sure.
and the proofreader will read it, but
Sure.
but the cover designer does some research, gets to know about the book before he or she will design an appropriate cover. Right? There's a lot of work that goes into it. We probably spend 100 or 150 hours on each book that we produce. Easy.
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. No, I
So-
believe that.
Yeah. So
And then
it's hard to get people to believe you.
Rent or owning your own home in Phoenix is not cheap. So you probably pay. I'm guessing you pay your
No.
employees pretty okay, and then so
Well,
there's all.
Actually, my employees are all over the country.
Oh, are they? Well, that's
Yeah.
good.
Oh, that's
I mean,
nice.
there are certain areas that people
Yeah.
can live, and hence where I live, it's very affordable. Where Bill lives, it's not affordable. So we definitely.
Well, they actually don't. They don't. The word afford has been banned in Los Angeles. They actually don't use that word anymore. Anyway, right. So this is a barrier to entry. So I worked on an audiobook for one of my buddies, who is a self-published author, and he's doing quite well. He's doing YA style novels, and pretty much is hawking the book at Comic-Cons and conventions and those sorts of things, and he's doing really well that way. One of his ways was he did the KDP route, got the free ISBN, and rocked and rolled. Why? It's free. And by and large, it's a pretty simple book to lay out. One of those novels, there's not a lot of, there's no graphics in it. Basically just doing the best practices. Probably get a friend to throw down. Struggle with the files, throw it up to KDP and go, ha! Now I have a book. So the issues are not apparent in the beginning as to why would I not do that, right? Now he's got a full-time job, family, the whole thing. It takes him a while to do it, and he's got to do the legwork to be an author in this whole thing. But why doesn't he want to spend a few $1,000s to get that done for him?
Well, the do-it-yourself message has taken hold. I will grant you that, but I can tell you that if you look at a professional product, professional typesetting, we take such great care with how the text is formatted that if you hold it next to, you hear authors online all the time talking about how they formatted their book in Word, or they used Vellum or some other program, but a real typesetter is going to produce type as you would see in a major publisher's hardcover book. Beautiful typesetting, right? And even if you use InDesign, if you don't tweak the settings, you're not going to get the same results as somebody who knows what they're doing in terms of typesetting. So I don't know I don't know how to answer that.
I can answer it for
you. I learned how to do it. I learned how to do it the right way, and I'm not going to change now.
It's one of those things like you pay for what you get, or you get what you pay for, I should say. This guy's book is good. It's really good. That said, I think he learned a whole lot from that first book that he put out, and the second one, he's kind of changed the way he does it. Because when you get the book, not specifically his, but when you get a book and you start finding, grammatical problems or, mistakes, spelling errors and such. So in my book, there's a bunch of spelling errors. It's 140, 130,000 words. I went through this thing so many times ad nauseum. I had my friends, we would sit down, I'd buy them beer and pizza. We would sit down and read different chapters and write out, and still grammatical errors.
Yeah.
And
when you drink beer,
never drink beer and proofread at the same time.
Listen, don't you judge me. The point is,
page 2,
even with
or,
that,
or 1. Is
even
it
with
page
that,
1?
and the spell check, and the whatever, and the blah, is it that big of a deal? I mean, there is an embarrassing aspect to it. I made that book, and so when you look at it, you're like, well, this dude made this book. It is so much better quality than I expected it to be, and people have been very, very impressed. But I can also see maybe I should have, for like the next one, the Kickstarter would include getting a professional to actually do that, because I cannot stress how much stress and just like years of your life are going away. It is because you don't know what to do. You don't know how to do it. And
we can't
I'm
be good
OCD,
at everything,
so.
right? No, we can't be good at everything. We're trained in one thing usually. And so if you do it, if you do it all day, every day, you get pretty good at it.
Yeah, and I bet it's a speed thing. Like you hire a pro, and they're gonna finish it within a lot of amount of time. They're an expert. If you hire your friend and give them a 6-pack of beer, I mean,
They'll get to it. They'll get to it.
They'll be inebriated, and like every word will sound like magic. Even if it's not a word. Oh, it's not a word? That's great. You made up your own word. This is awesome. New words. new forms of...
When I did that voiceover, it was a huge learning experience. And I probably did 65, 75 hours on his book. It was 230 pages. You know, a professional could have done that in 35, 40. So when you think about it, like, I got paid a pittance because he's my friend and everything, but like spending the money on a professional for a voice actor, for whatever, spending that money, you are saving the opportunity cost where you can go promote or whatever.
Exactly. So it comes down to how much time you have too. I mean, you could spend twice as long to do an amateur job, or you can write a check and let somebody else do a professional job for you.
Right.
Or you could spend no money and get AI to do it. Heck, you could just have AI write the book.
Let's not go there.
Yeah. Speaking of AI, what we often get this question from some of the people that view us. What are your thoughts on AI and all that good stuff?
The more I hear about it, the more I am a little bit frightened. I think it's probably capable of great things, but I don't know. I've heard from a customer not too long ago who wrote to me to let me know that the 6 books we did for him, that he had them narrated by AI, and it's like, okay,
it's gonna suck.
But
it's gonna suck.
You can hear the difference, right?
It's gonna suck.
And then I've heard that some people are going to do indexes by AI. So I don't know. I could see worldwide unemployment coming our way.
That's okay,
but
dude.
I mean, that's a real issue that we've run across. AI is already affecting my industries. You know, in TV, film, writing is certainly a part of that, because you know, writers' rooms are getting smaller in Hollywood because you get one writer who has to use AI to generate ideas at the very least. Might not use what it spits out, but certainly as inspiration goes, you know, that stuff becomes
like
fair game. And in a world where, you know, if you talk to somebody who's in the WGA, they say, you know, I don't want to talk to other writers because they're going to accuse me of stealing their work. But if you're under the gun and you need to get something done, you know, you open up the chat bot and you don't have a writer's room that, you know, is getting paid because you have a showrunner or a writer that, you know, has to get this stuff out. And you don't have the time. Like they have deadlines of such a shorter amount of time to produce stuff, instead of, you know, having a writer go through the whole series or the whole show, like through 6 months of production. They have the writers in for 2 months and they're gone. And basically, you know, you only have the head writer on for any additional changes. So it's just a smaller and smaller a group I guess.
But it sucks.
It does suck.
Well, I'm saying like the product sucks.
Everything sucks.
It's derivative. It's tropey.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
That's why we don't talk about Star Wars.
Well, I think everybody's going to stampede to it now because it's a new shiny object, and I hope we all come to our senses and only use it for good things instead of
what do you think,
just to save money.
What do you think about voice over using AI? What's been your experience with it?
You talking to me?
Oh yeah. No, you're the guest. I'm not talking to Ken.
He wants seated one.
I can hear it. I can hear it. It sounds like a machine.
Yeah.
And if you listen to an audio book that's narrated by a trained voice actor, it's so much better. It can bring that book to life.
I'll say,
but again,
go on.
If people go, if they vote for good enough to save money, then you can't argue with that. What can you do? They don't care about quality.
Well, and that's the thing. I was actually talking to a couple friends that I know that are self-publishers, because so I'm an actor in LA, and getting into voice acting is something that I am interested in. And so I said, hey, look, if I've got the right thing, then you should use me. And they're like, look, I don't have $1,200, $1,500 to drop on you. And I don't have $3,000, $5,000 to drop on someone who's seriously established. So I'm just going to use AI. And I'm like, yeah, but then I'm not going to buy your book.
One sale.
Oh, we'll all be out. That's right. I mean, we'll all be out of work and we won't be able to buy anything, including books.
But it's cheap. It's cheap. I get that it's cheap, but there is an ethical aspect, I think, to it, which I know a lot of people aren't gonna. Ethics and morality doesn't really sell.
Yeah, people don't buy into ethics and morality.
But there is an ethic and a morality to it. I know that when I'm watching YouTube, so I'm a middle-aged white man, so I watch YouTube, and when I'm watching, sometimes the thumbnail will be some story that I think is really interesting, like something science fiction or whatever, and I click it. I notice this influx of these channels.
Oh yeah,
and it's an AI story with AI graphics, voice acted by an AI person.
With a really terrible word or two in there.
It is immediately unwatchable.
Yeah.
Like, granted, it has tons and tons and tons and tons of views, and it's causing that revenue. So all of those bot machines in Eastern Europe and Ukraine and or not Ukraine and India, they're getting money.
Sure.
But it's awful. Like it's tropey, it's cliche, it's not interesting to listen to.
Yeah.
It's all kind of the same story over and over and over. It's kind of twisted a little bit.
You get that harsh, visceral response.
Yeah.
Just like, get it. I can't swipe away fast enough. And it's like, it's inundated in the feed. I'm with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but AI can do, go on.
I was going to say, I'm not a psychologist, but what happens when we stop valuing each other, right? What happens to our humanity?
You build a city like Los Angeles.
No, you gotta build it.
I mean, right? I mean, all the bad things that happen in the world are because somebody doesn't feel valued or they feel like a number, right? Then they go out and do bad things. What happens when all of us start feeling like that? Because we're sucked into this machine. I don't know. I think it's.
We like you, Michele. We like you. You're a good.
That's a good. We're going. I was gonna pick a different topic for the next question, but do you have a thought on book banning? Is that?
I don't think a book should ever be banned.
Really?
I think we need people to make judgments, for example, of what young kids should be allowed to read, right? But as far as once you're an adult, you should be able to read anything and make your own decisions.
You don't think Maxim should be an elementary school libraries?
I don't know what that is.
It's like a
That magazine
it's like a Playboy type.
It's
thing.
like a
what?
softcore. It's not even. I think they just have
Not
an
that I've
attractive-
never read it.
I used to work for them occasionally. I mean, it's a little exploitive, but it's not like porn.
Yeah, I've been sitting in my office by myself for 20 years, so I don't get out much.
But for example, what about a book like like Mein Kampf
or the Bible.
or the Bible?
Why not? I think you should read everything and make your own judgments and discuss it with someone who knows about it and can help you understand it.
Yeah, but I mean, elementary school libraries, children should
Well, yes, I think children should be protected, and
be
maybe
protected
a teacher somewhere in high school would want to discuss a controversial book with them when they're old enough to understand it and analyze it.
So are there
I don't think any-
ratings? Is there a rating system for books that exist? I mean, or should there?
Not that I'm aware of.
Should
don't
there
know.
be? I mean, because there's a rating system for music. There's a rating system
Yeah.
for
Or movies. I don't.
films,
As far as I
movies.
know, there isn't one for book.
uh,
That's where
And maybe-
librarians come in,
yeah,
and teachers and school boards.
school boards,
That's
teachers,
fair.
and stuff like that.
Any
And
kind
so-
of banning is open to abuse, though. That's the problem.
Yeah,
So
well,
when-
straight up censorship, right?
Yeah.
Well, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Is there a book that you guys wouldn't do?
Hmm.
It's a stupid hypothetical question, but
Actually,
Or-
it's not hypothetical.
Yeah,
oh, indeed, okay.
Yeah, we did have a book come in once. It was a poetry book, and the author was writing about killing his children, and I
So-
wouldn't take that one.
so
Yeah, yeah.
obscenity, or like something that really proposed no ethical or moral.
Well, it depends, right? We don't do porn,
Mhm. What about like,
right?
what's hot right now is like fantasy sci-fi, like kind of
What's hot right now? That's
what
the
I mean,
perfect way to follow that.
or like Lord of the Rings, kind of
Lord of the
a
Rings
young
fantasy
adult,
porn. What
kind of sexy. Well, it's not porn though. I mean, I think it's romantic, like romantic novels aren't porn, are they? I mean, I don't know. I've not read a lot of romance novels.
I'll be
I just
right
know
back.
that-
You guys continue.
But a sci-fi romance.
My battery's running out.
Oh no. Well, okay. So websites. You guys do websites? Are you in the world of helping authors build websites?
Yes, absolutely. You can find all of our services on our website.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
No,
we do
do you-
websites, audio
do you-
books, everything.
Do you guys build, or actually, how do you all help promote the book or market or advise or whatever?
Yes, I not directly. I introduce my authors to 3 marketing people that I trust with my life, and
Whoa.
they can choose whoever they want to work with and whatever program appeals to them.
Right on. No, that's invaluable. Because in my own journey, you get the book done, you get yippee-ki-yay. Okay. Now what?
what's next? Yeah, it seems like
Yeah,
the
like-
writing the book's the easy part, right?
That's like the easy part.
Yeah, one of the services we have is author marketing training, where we will train you to market the book yourself and show you how to do it for very little cost. And that way you can just carry on instead of hiring an expensive marketing firm to do it for you.
What are some pitfalls? I know that your battery's going and such, but tell us some pitfalls that you find people running into, and how, if they use your service, they can avoid them.
Well, just the short version is that we make it easy, right? I see the updates online, as I'm sure you do, that authors are suffering. I don't know how my file won't upload. What can I do? The colors don't look like I thought they were going to look. All of that, and we can take that off their hands because that's what we do every day, and we know how to make it happen without all the stress and all the angst that a lot of people are going through. And we can guarantee you that you're going to get a professional level product as well.
What about reviews? And what do you know? Can you give any insight onto the review game and the algorithm and all that crap?
It has become a game, and that's unfortunate. I don't know what the solution is other than to work with a marketing person that knows how to get legitimate reviews for you. I say it's just tough to fight corruption. What do you do when there are websites out there that promise to get you thousands of reviews for $100? You know? What can you do?
Well, there's one thing with social media. So I don't particularly like social media, but it's a thing apparently. The social media community of creators, at least, will dog you down if they see that you're buying bots to get views or buying subscribers or doing those kind of unethical business practices. The community actually sort of self-polices in a lot of ways. Is there any sort of thing like that you see now or perhaps in the horizon?
I can highly recommend the Alliance of Independent Authors. I don't know if you've run into them yet. They're known as
No
ALLI.
idea who they are.
Okay,
Oh.
ALLI, and they can be found at selfpublishingadvice.org. And they have a watchdog list of who to watch out for in terms of service providers like us and publishers that may or may not be reputable. And they also, they've got a lot of good podcasts. They also talk about reviews and ethics in writing and all sorts of good topics. They're a great organization.
Nice. So the Alliance of Self-Publishing.
The Alliance of Independent Authors.
Alliance of Independent Authors. Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah, because self-publishing has been
it's not.
misunderstood.
It's okay, go ahead.
ALLI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's pronounced ally.
So
yeah.
Independent publishing is a better word, I think, for it if you go about it the right way, because self-publishing has become defined as do-it-yourself publishing, and that's what's given the industry a bad name.
Yeah, because you don't know what the product is, and again, it like with Amazon, you go and even if you're going to buy, a mouse, for example, you look at the reviews, and
you can't trust anything.
I mean, I look at the 1-star reviews. Because at least those people were the angry ones. And I'm like, what are they saying? I want to know what the angry person says.
The problem is the 1-star reviews are not are potentially just people who just got a defective product. And so they just hit 1 star. And so it doesn't really go into depth because it's just maybe it's a very rare manufacturer
3-star review.
Yeah. But no, I look at the 1-star.
Or someone who didn't read the instructions and blames the manufacturer.
They bought the wrong thing.
Right.
They didn't know what they were buying. I buy all this technical weird stuff all the time, and it's like, well, clearly the 1-star review didn't buy the 1-star thing that I want to buy. And yes, I have weird cables that I bought that I thought would have a solution, and it's just like things spliced together that there's no reality to it. It's just like it's not a thing. I mean, it's a cable, sure, but it's not a real cable.
Michelle,
you really have to be. I was going to say you have to be careful on Amazon. I only buy from name brands that I recognize on Amazon.
Sure.
I've learned to be more careful if it's a company I never heard of or it's obviously something. Yeah, you have to be.
Instead of publishing, do you think authors may need to just start making films to get their book out there? Just skip the whole printing out a book and just go right into feature film world, or is that the future?
A good question. It's actually a good question. Do you think that publishing is going the way of the dodo?
I hope the creativity isn't. The media may change, but I hope that the human urge to be creative never goes away. We'll see what AI does to us.
Do you see? I know we have a bad rap. AI gets a bad rap a lot.
Yeah.
Do you see AI being useful? Being able to be used usefully in your industry, and how would that pan out?
I don't know. So far, it's just taking work away from talented people, as far as I can see. But who knows where it's going to go? It may be like anything else. In good hands, it'll do good things, and in bad hands, it'll do terrible things.
Have you noticed writing change over the last couple of decades, like style, quality, etc.? Because we're inundated now. We don't have a chance to be bored. Have you noticed a stylistic change, or like, is the next great author out there with all of this that we're put against?
Well, I think books are definitely getting shorter. The internet is responsible for that, because nobody wants to read a 700-page novel anymore.
Really?
And really,
no, I'm serious.
I know.
I'm
Oh yeah,
books are generally getting short. The problem that I see just generally in society is that people don't value the advice of experts as much as they used to. At least when I was young. When I was growing up, an expert was like God. My parents would never argue with an expert, but now people argue. They want to do things a different way, no matter what the expert says, and that's across all industries, not just publishing.
Absolutely.
So
I've experienced that many times.
Why do you think that is, Michele?
I don't know. Self-esteem, I guess. Everybody has self-esteem, and we think that's a good thing, but too much self-esteem is no good. Yeah.
It's interesting. I could see AI. So I do some programming as a day job, and AI is invaluable for that. It can make things much more efficient. Now, if I type in, "Hey, make this program for me," it'll do it. And I've caught many mistakes, programming errors. It does something that you didn't tell it to, and there's a little warning that says there are mistakes. You can't quite trust it. But as an assistant, it's quite good, because what it is doing is it's the same thing as, instead of me having to go to 4 different websites and search through, how do I say this word in some language, right? Just as an example, I can ask this one device to give me the answer, and generally reliably trust it. As a tool, it's great. I cannot rely on it to program, the programs that I'm doing, or to correct the mistakes that are already in programs. You talked about AI being used in an index. Now, is there an art form to an index? Or creating?
Yes, absolutely. It takes a thinking human being. I think. I don't know how. I don't know how it does an index. AI might find all the proper nouns and build an index out of that. But a true index is much more in depth than that. A human being will read the book and pull out concepts that may not necessarily be listed as a word, but that will help the reader if those terms are added by the indexer and included in the index, right? So and then a human indexer will cross-references, right? Where you read an index and it says, see also this, and this, and this. I mean, I don't know. Maybe AI can do that. I don't know. But it seems to me thoughtful human being, it will do a better job.
I think a question would be, what is the purpose of an index? Because a lot of people don't know.
To help the reader navigate to the information they're looking for. And they don't remember where they found it. They remember it was in the book, but they don't remember where. So that's what an index does.
And I find that I don't actually read the entirety of anything anymore. Like if I open a PDF or a book, I hit that find. And I don't read a lot of fiction. I listen to some fiction, but I don't read a lot of fiction. I'm in tech world, and so that find, or that search in the top, and it just spits out all the different terms. I don't even use the index unless it really, unless I get too many parameters back. So
I think that's a medium. That's a medium thing. Yeah, a PDF is a different ball game than a physical book.
And
right?
if you're in a book world, without the index, for
You're
instance,
screwed.
for the Dreadlore book, we'll never find it. I mean, there is a PDF, so I mean that if we're offline, I guess.
What's a glossary for?
A glossary is a list of terms that the reader may not be familiar with, terms and definitions, right?
So there's an art form to knowing what should be in these things. Is basically what you're saying.
Yeah.
Ken?
Oh, I guess your book published like the prose. Do you have what's your number one bit of advice? Like like a sound bite, like a big deal kind of thing. What is the first thing you should do if you want to really be professional and publishing? Number one.
Well, the first thing you should do is find experts who can work at the level you want and collaborate with them to produce the book you love.
So don't do it alone.
That's really all there is to it.
Don't
do it alone. You're gonna suffer. It's gonna take you 20 times longer, and you're not gonna get as good a result.
It took me I would say, a year and a half, 2 years straight. And like I said, I'd lost relationships and opportunities because all I was doing. What was this? And I was able to do that because of my situation. I was working remotely. I was living at home. So low cost out here, like with an actual like day job, taken forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. But, there's this idea of the cost. So about how much does it cost? I'm assuming you guys have different packages. And people can just go to your website, of course. But what are the sort of different packages that you guys offer?
Nope, you don't get that answer. Unless my...
I think your battery may have died.
Yeah, I think
because you just cut out.
I think that we'll have to hold that off. I'm not sure that we can fix that issue for a next time. You might have to.
Oh no! I want the answer, damn it.
You might have to get the answer next time.
We could blame Discord.
I think we're gonna blame Discord and see if we can find a better alternative to future podcast. If you can still hear us, Michele,
give us a thumbs
awesome.
up.
You're super awesome.
Give us a thumbs up if you can hear us.
You brought us a ton of great information tonight. I feel like I know more than I did before. I'm gonna go ahead and close this out.
Oh, she can hear us. She can hear us.
If that's appropriate. Do you want me to do that?
Well, let's see if she can get the audio.
I don't think it's coming back. I think it went.
You don't think so?
I think it went.
Might have gone.
Do you have any last words, Bill?
Michele, since you can hear me and Ken, one of our viewers, Buck Mudd, says,
nice.
Thank you for all the information.
Yeah, thanks.
Which is very cool.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Her Discord is absolutely showing the audio pop up.
Yeah, we see
as in she's talking, but there's something that has clicked off. So it's a computer issue. It's fine. Anyway, I think that we're probably pretty good unless we can figure this out really quick.
Yeah.
Ken, tell us a story really quick.
Once I was on a podcast that was called the Geeky Gamer Podcast. And one of the things that I find really interesting is like how and why does any of this stuff actually relate to geeky gamers? Like why is publishing important? And I come back to things like we're seeing a lot of content being generated from games, creating games, or just from TTRPG games where, the content, for instance, with JV Hilliard that he wrote was based on a role-playing game, or, the Critical Role success story.
Oh! She's almost back. Almost back. I think it's a network issue.
It's a network issue for sure.
It's a network issue. Oh. Yeah, we can hear you.
Robot voice.
It's a Wi-Fi thing.
Yeah. I think it's an app thing.
Yeah.
But Michele, I think I really think you have a good service to add, and from hearing that you have 20 employees working with you, you cannot have that infrastructure without doing something correctly. So that seems like it would be a really good resource for anybody who wants to create a book and not have issues on page 2 or 1
or 1.
So
all right, well, we're gonna bounce. Michele, thank you very much for joining us, and we're sorry about the Discord thing. Discord's cool, but it's technology that is
it's open source.
It's open source, meaning that sometimes it's not reliable. Yeah. So that's our bad. Yeah. We normally ask you for the last words.
Not today, but
and you got any last words?
If you had last words, check out the socials, 1106design.com. If you want to engage on the socials, I think Twitter 1106design or at 1106design is the Twitter. I think there's a Facebook. There's a bunch of other stuff, but really, if you want to get the info, I think it's 1106design.com. And you can schedule a consultation, it looks like, and subscribe and get newsletters. They've got I think a newsletter,
YouTube, a LinkedIn.
Yeah, they send some newsletters. They've got a lot of information out there on how to improve your writing, and it sounds like from beginning to end, kind of getting your work out there.
As a publisher myself,
instead of
who did a Kickstarter,
abandoning your friends.
Put that into your goals. Yeah. Like take the time to do some crowdfunding for it if you don't have the cash, and get some experts to make your product.
Yeah, as an expert, I want to work with experts, and that is the difference between doing something good that people care about and doing nothing.
Well, doing it professionally or not.
Yeah, or not. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Do you want me to read us out?
Okay. Yeah. Michele, boom. Yeah,
you are. This is the Geeky Gamer Podcast. We're live at exactly 7 p.m. Eastern
We're live
Standard Time.
Exactly. Dude, it's 7 p.m. What are you talking about?
It is. Tonight was Michele Defilippo.
Defilippo. Oh my God, dude. You're Hispanic. How can you do that?
Yeah, but I don't think that's a Hispanic name.
I don't know. It might be Italian. We should have asked.
I think it's Italian. I couldn't say. Anyway, all lowercase letter, all lowercase letters and Mr. Interrupt brought us the score. This wouldn't be happening without our Patreon members: Tim Roberts, Daniel Holker, Nostalgic, and Natalia Cline. Super duper thank you for all of that you guys do. All media production.
Thanks so much, Patreon.
And art by Couchfire Media.
Yeah, they do some stuff.
And everything else, all the backhanded compliments.
All the bad stuff.
All the bad stuff. is provided
All
by
the bad
Twa
stuff.
Replay Productions.
Twa Replay Productions. Those guys.
Misspellings,
You know, misspellings.
dramatic
Misspellings brought to you
insights.
by. Oh, she's back.
All right. Thanks for playing. We'll see you next week at exactly Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Dreadlore Live Play podcast on a different YouTube elsewhere. Maybe we should have
Completely
that
different, just
posted.
to change it up.